Yeah, that sounds fun. Something artsy where I'm looking at the flower in the foreground, not the dingus digging a ditch. Sure, why not? Greetings, surface dwellers of the internet. I am the Cybermole, and I have been fired from my museum job. The reasons are just, the reasons are fair, and I am going to trust God that this is part of His plan for me. I will be looking for other part-time employment, and until then, I have a farm to focus on. And focusing on the farm means talking about dirt again. Now, last month, I separated out soil erosion as being a different topic entirely from the general discussion of soil degradation. In my eyes, soil degradation involves focusing on the elements and contents of the soil itself, not just how the soil is being moved around. So I am going to do that here and focus on the elements and contents of soil, starting with actual elements. Plants are like humans and need key elements for basic bodily function and growth. The following 17 elements are those essential elements. Take a sip every time I say elements, folks. In order of atom size, we have hydrogen, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, potassium, calcium, manganese, iron, nickel, copper, and molybdenum. Whatever molybdenum is. What is molybdenum? Some elements have a greater bearing on a plant's function than others. The first set of 3 major elements are hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen come from water in the soil, with carbon and oxygen coming from carbon dioxide via the air. For those who have forgotten 5th grade science, photosynthesis is where plants use sunlight to turn CO2 and water into glucose, or sugar, for its own use and releases oxygen back into the atmosphere. Hey, I warned you about biochemistry back in January, remember? The second set of 3 elements get the most attention for many reasons, some of which I will touch on in this episode. They are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Anyone can find these listed on any bottle or bag of fertilizer presented in what is called the NPK ratio. Allow me to go over these elements individually. Nitrogen, the N, is used by plants for the creation of cell walls. Remember back to 8th grade biology, please. It is also needed for the generation and use of chlorophyll for the process of photosynthesis and for the generation of proteins in grains, such as wheat and barley. Phosphorus, the P in NPK, is needed for cell growth and division. Please make note of this little trilogy of trilogies. Phosphorus is also present in photosynthesis via the processes involved with, okay, tricksy word here, Mole, say it right the first time, adenosine triphosphate. Yes! ATP. What is ATP? The lazy answer is that ATP is several sugar molecules stuck together, making it easier for any living organism to move it around themselves for whatever use they might need sugars for. Now, phosphorus is also present in the creation of DNA and RNA. If you want info on that, I would recommend go watch Jurassic Park. Potassium, the K in NPK, is used by plants for the creation of stronger cell walls and is part of the opening and closing of the stomata. The stomata being the holes in leaves that allow plants to breathe during the process of photosynthesis. And finally, potassium also allows for the better movement of sugars throughout the plant, leading to sweeter fruits, which is something to keep in mind as I look into possible replacements for some of the dead zones in the orchard concerning my interest in crop diversity. I will absolutely give each of these elements their own deep dive episode eventually. As the final notes of this particular little overview, the presence or absence of these elements can affect the plant beyond its own basic health. Example, when these elements are low, leaf color changes. Changes in leaf color can attract unwanted insects that could eat the plants or lead to just other types of crop damage. As the orchard is restored, I fully expect us to be using some of the various home soil test kits to examine our own local NPK ratios throughout said orchard. And, of course, we will be adding whichever soil amendments, fertilizers, and whatever else we can or need. However, without a professional soil sample analysis, I have no idea what we actually have in our soil. But I am learning what I want to see. The remaining 11 elements are either secondary nutrients or micronutrients, but they still weigh in concerning another factor, the drought tolerance of plants. When any of these are in short supply, the plant will draw up extra water to compensate. This is a major concern here in drought-riddled California. And this gives me an excuse to talk about one of the 4 classical elements, water. Specifically, water retention capacity of the soil. There are tiny spaces between particles of soil, and each soil particle has its own holes or cavities referred to as pores. Water tension and capillary action causes water to stick to these soil particles. With gravelly clay loam, we have a mixed blessing in this regard. Clay-based soil means that the individual particles within that soil are extremely small and extra fine. This means that our soil can hold water quite well. The downside is that some plants, especially the ones we are thinking of for cover crops, want soils that drain quickly. Other factors are disking and mowing. These expose the soil for evaporation. While this might sound like a valid substitute for drainage, these activities could lead to what is called soil compaction. Soil compaction is exactly what it sounds like, compacting soil. When soil is compacted, it is made denser. Denser soil has fewer spaces for water to enter it. If water cannot enter the soil, then not only do the plants have no water to drink, but I also get runoff. And runoff is a kind of erosion. We've been over erosion before, folks. Everything else I have to say about the soil and water relationship will also mean talking about the soil food web. I have not finished teaching myself about that particular bundle of microbiology. So until then, please like, subscribe, activate notifications, or check back regularly. Spring is here, and I should like to introduce you to some of the plants we have on the farm.